Hi, how you doing? I'm betting a bunch of you have a tomato this big sitting on your deck right now, and it's in a pot about this big. I think we should talk about this today, how we can get that tomato to be big and beautiful right through to the end of the season. My name is Sharon. I garden on a large yard in a small town in east central Saskatchewan, Zone 3. Welcome to my Sask Garden. This is Esterina. Esterina is the variety name of this tomato, and she was the only one I had left. I have another one growing here in the garden, but she was the only one I had left in a pot. And so Esterina needs a home. She's really just too nice looking to throw on the compost pile, and I want to see how she does in a pot. So as I said, many of you probably have a tomato, maybe close to this size, whatever variety, it doesn't matter. But also the ones that you buy in the big box stores, they often come in a pot about this size, maybe a little bigger. Right now, Esterina is looking beautiful. She has fruit already set. She's got lots of blooms already going. She's setting more fruit here. She really is very, very nice. She's an indeterminate tomato, which means she's going to grow and grow and grow. And I want to tell you that 3 weeks ago, she was just in one of those red solo cups. And at that time, I decided to repot her into this size pot. And I wanted to show you what happened in just 3 weeks. It's not even 3 weeks. And I've got 2 stakes in here to hold her up. And there's her root structure now. It has completely filled the pot. So if we leave it like this, it's not going to last to the end of the season. It's going to become completely root bound, and that means it won't hold any water, or you're going to have to water it at least twice a day. And even still, it won't have enough soil or room for the roots to continue to grow properly. Also, that soil, once it becomes so root bound, it doesn't have the ability to uptake any nutrients from the fertilizer that you give it. So I'm going to repot it into a 5-gallon pail. We've drilled holes on the bottom of that 5-gallon pail. And I'm going to use a rebar stake, but you could use a heavy-duty bamboo stake or whatever you need. But for an indeterminate tomato, I would suggest you're going to need probably an 8-foot stake, considering that you're going to use a couple feet to get into the bottom of the pail. So I'm just going to put Esterina to the side here for a minute. In my wagon here, I've just put a bunch of soil additives. This is ProMix HP. This is Co-op Gold potting soil. This is some coconut coir, and this is some of my own compost. The other thing I'm going to add here is some slow release fertilizer. Now, the plant that you bought at the store would have had some slow release fertilizer in it, but that slow release fertilizer is only usually good for about 6 to 8 weeks from the time that it's put into the soil. So that's not from the time that you buy the plant. Your potted plant is already looking for nutrition. You may see some of these little balls still in the soil, but if you press those little balls and they collapse, there's nothing in them. They've basically used up everything that they are going to use up. So you need to start looking at extra fertilizer anyway. And now would be a really good time. Now would be, while your plant is still looking good, now is an excellent time to do this, as opposed to when it starts looking sad and when it, definitely needs that it won't live another day unless it's repotted. It's almost too late at that point. You need to do it now. Your plants are beautiful. Your tomatoes making fruit. You think, oh, this is great, but it's not going to survive through the end of the season. So even though I put in that slow release fertilizer as I go on through the season, I will still also probably fertilize it. I'm going to say once a week. You water these lots, the nutrients leach from the soil the more you water, and they just need as much nutrition as they can utilize, and the plant will determine how much nutrition it wants and how much it'll take up by its roots. We feed the soil, we don't feed the plant. The plant decides what it wants, and as long as those nutrients are available, the plant will take what it needs. So I'm ready to put the soil into the pot right now, but first I'm going to insert this stake. Now this is far too large, of course, for what I need, but we're just not going to cut it into something smaller. This will be fine. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that rebar stake in through the hole at the bottom that's on the side of the pot, and this is going to be the stake for the tomato. Esterina can grow as tall as she wants, basically, but what it's going to do is not only stake the tomato, but it's also going to anchor the plant or the pot, so that when she does get a little top heavy, she's not going to blow the pot over, you know, especially sometimes they dry out a little bit. And so I'm just going to stick that through the hole as far down as I can. I think maybe I hit a rock. Try that again. Maybe I'm hitting roots. There, this one's good. Okay. So that pot can't fall over, and it's also going to provide a stake for the tomato. Even if it were to bend with the weight of the tomato, it really won't matter very much at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill the pot about halfway, and when I set the tomato in here, I'm not going to disturb the roots at all. I'm just going to take the roots out of the pot and set it in here, so that the plant shouldn't suffer any stress from the move. And I'm going to leave those stakes that I have in there. I'm just going to leave them in. That's going to be about perfect. So as it grows, I can just strap her to this stake. I could even use another rebar in there if I wanted, just to stabilize. That's great. And then I'm just going to fill around. And this will give her, well, I'm sure that this tomato will fill this pot within a month or so. But I feel like it'll take a little bit longer for it to become root bound. So now if you are repotting and you're still going to keep your tomato on your deck, and of course you can't put a rebar into the ground from your deck, you could maybe, you know, strap a stake to your deck railing, for example, something like that, be able to anchor it in some way. Or if you don't have, this is a windy spot, so I do have to think about that. If you don't have a windy spot on your deck, just simply sticking the stake into the pail, as long as the pail is deep enough, I'm sure that would be enough. Or one of those giant tomato cages would also work. I didn't have any extras, or I probably would have used a giant tomato cage. But whatever you can use to support it in some way. And I think that's going to be enough soil. I like to leave, a reservoir, a good lip, for holding water when I water, so that when you water this, you want to make sure that it's watered all the way down to the bottom. I do have some holes on the side so that I can actually see the water coming out at the bottom, knowing that, so I know that I've watered enough. All right. I bought some of this Velcro stuff that's meant for tying up plants, and I quite like it. You know, it comes in like a 3-pack or something off Amazon. Very affordable. You can use anything as long as it's soft. But these just strap on and holds the plant quite well. They're also reusable. I'm going to take all these off before I toss the plant in the fall. But that's basically what is needed now. It's staked. This one will need to come over as well, probably, and I'll do that right now. Just in case you get a big wind, you want to make sure that it's not going to break any stems off. There. It just needs a good soak. You know, in that smaller pot, I watered her yesterday in the morning and again last night. Not big soaks, but it needed extra last night, so I did do that, and it was going to need another watering. If I wasn't doing this, it was going to need another watering today. So I'm just going to wait for that bit to soak in. None of this soil mix was really wet, so it's going to take a minute for it to rehydrate all the way down to the bottom. And going forward, I'm going to check this probably every day for water. I generally water in the evening, or late afternoon is generally when I water. That's good. She has lots of room to grow now. I haven't pruned anything off this plant yet. It will need to be pruned as well. I prune off the non-producing stems. I leave the suckers, but I do prune off any of these sort of downward facing stems that I know are not going to produce any fruit. You want to get the most out of that plant that you can, because we don't have a long growing season. So, you know, by the end of August, mid-September, our light levels aren't enough. Our nights are getting cooler. Our days perhaps aren't as warm. And so we want to get as much fruit as we can out of all our tomatoes. And that's why it's so important to take care of them now, so that you're not worrying about them a month from now, that they're looking poorly, that they need to be repotted, etc., that they already have a lot of fruit that are ripening. You know, it's just better to do it earlier on and get it done, and then you don't have to worry about her anymore. There we go. Esterina has a new home. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found it informative or helpful in some way. If you did, give me a thumbs up, tell your friends, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Thanks again. See you.